No, no.
First of all,
Trust him.
first of all, it's the equinox and not the solstice that's coming up.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
And for you it is the fall equinox, but for us it's the spring equinox. All the oh, she hit him in the head. All but the spring equinox and fall equinox for you this year is very important. It's the energy is moving well. They all the predictions, apocalyptic stuff. It's not going to be that bad. The worst case scenario says at least 1 billion people will survive. Of course, that means 6 billion die, right?
Does it say geographically where that happens?
Actually, you are in an extremely unthreatened area. Most of the problems will be in the northern hemisphere, where the major population stuff is. Actually, Australia, and you're right next door to it, basically, is the safest. You know, so you're in the Ipsissimi in Australia is actually an app. She's actually one of the indigenous people.
Oh,
right.
Yep.
And
I'll look smart here.
technically, she's never even been to school.
Really?
Yeah, she's one of the. She lives in the outback with her people. But that's the safest place. And even up here, it's not going to be bad. It's all based on that concept of thoughts become things. You see, and you have the fundamentalist Christians running around preaching the end of the earth, and the same with the Muslims and the Mayans and everybody. So you got this massive negative thought form. But there's also a massive positive thought form. The entire adept community and everyone that really consciously pursues any type of spiritual path is constantly producing this positive thought form. So as long as as long as the negative can't become too much larger than the positive, actually it should be a period of awakening. Most yellow spirit bodies will probably, that's the way we like to look at it. Of course, no one knows until it happens. Philosophically, we lean towards suddenly on the winter solstice, northern hemisphere, summer solstice to you, all yellow spirit bodies become adept. See, now that's nice.
Saves a lot of hard work.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's nice.
That was one of my questions for today. When will we know we're adept?
When will you know you're adept? Okay. One thing you will know. Hey, Layla. One thing you will know is suddenly you'll be seeing refractive light. Not constantly, but frequently. As the sun moves or little shadows take place, you'll start picking up pretty strong refractive light. So And that's pretty definitive when that happens. One of the problems that takes place, not when someone is aware of what's happening, but if an individual is not aware of what's happening when they start seeing this, they may think they're nuts. Do you understand what I mean? We had that one black fella in Houston was ready to check himself in the nut house because suddenly he was seeing these things. You see? But when you start seeing them, you'll be very happy. You won't think you're nuts. You'll go, oh, here we go. You see? So that's nice. You see? You know, so that's one of the first clues. Also, the communal telepathy between you and Philippa, all couples that have been together for a while have a little bit of it, just because they're so aware of their partner's emotions and stuff that they can see parts of it in their face and stuff like this, and the way even the way they walk and stuff. So, but all of a sudden you'll start getting clear, much clearer communication telepathically. So that's a couple of the ways you will know. You will also know because suddenly you'll be hearing voices in your head saying, Carl, you must not eat that.
That'll be my wife then.
Carl, you should do this instead of that.
I've had that once. I woke up in the middle of the night one time and I could hear two men and a woman talking in my head. And I listened to them for about 10 minutes. And it was really, I know it was really interesting, but when I woke up in the morning I couldn't remember any of what I'd heard them saying. But yeah, it was just incredible to hear a conversation going on in my mind.
That's because you touched it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you touched it. And you just couldn't quite hold on to it. If you went just a little bit further, you'd have held on to it. You touched it. It just means you're ready.
Yeah, it was probably 18 months ago. I was meditating a lot at the time, probably at least twice a day. And yeah, it was exciting. So I've been desperate to get back there.
But it gets pretty crazy. See, as soon as you go just beyond that, the conversation was probably taking place on a larger scale, and so you were probably just hearing a couple of majors or Sissy Mai discussing something.
Mm-hmm.
We do that constantly where energy should be directed and stuff like this. But another problem when you break through all the way besides the color is, you know, there are over 500,000 adepts, if you count minor adepts. But there are 60,000 magicians and priestesses. Now, if you've ever listened to 60,000 people talking at once, it's pretty hectic. And you have to develop this filtering ability. You have to develop this filtering ability. Sort of like, it's just like if you live next to the train tracks, within a week you don't even hear the train anymore, unless there's a train accident. It just becomes part of the background. Now, and if the background noise suddenly said, Philippa or Carl, you'd pay attention there, see, because, you know, but you just filter it out. It gets relatively hectic at first. But it's not uncomfortable. It is not uncomfortable at all. We've always lost a terrific amount of people that belong to any dogmatic religious philosophy. You know, they sit there and deal with the dogmatic philosophies, and suddenly they start seeing and hearing and they think they're in hell. Do you understand what I mean? They think it's bad. And because it does happen spontaneously. And usually people become very, very frightened. You know, but...
Or insane.
What was that, Layla?
Or insane.
Or insane, yeah, they think they're insane. And sometimes it drives them insane.
Right.
We lose a lot like that.
I understand. They're not really, but it has happened.
You know, and the way, that's why we have gatekeepers. Every major adapt, every magician and priestess on the planet devotes at least 2 hours a day to just hanging around there, and as people pop through, the objective is to catch them and say, take it easy now, don't freak out, look, there's nothing wrong, relax, and maybe 1 in 100 you catch. Maybe 1 in 100 actually are capable of listening to that foreign voice they're hearing saying, relax, relax, relax. The other 99 think it's the devil. It's unfortunate, but, you know, so we've got institutions full of adepts.
Yeah, I met quite a few when I spent some time up at the hospital. It was quite surprising, and yeah, it made me look at crazy people very differently.
You know, and it's but the situation is slowly changing. There are more and more adept therapists and whatnot, and I'll give you a good example. A good friend of mine, the way I met him, he was not too big a shot, but sort of a big shot with Motorola in Austin. And suddenly he started seeing stuff. And so he would tell his wife about it, and his wife became concerned. Do you know what I'm saying? She became concerned. So she committed him.
Oh, no.
Now, yeah. And so when he gets to that, when they take him to the place, the bug hatch, a friend of mine happened to be the doctor on duty that night, and he said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong. You just have to go see Cougina." And I was right there in town, so that's how I met this fella. And he, you know, but it just happened to him. And his wife thought he was crazy because he was seeing sylphs and salamanders, and they're everywhere. When you start seeing, that's another thing that happens. You know, all of a sudden there'll be this cloudy black ghost type thing in the room. And just because it's black, you tend to think it's a negative. And they're not. They're from another dimension, you might say. They have no function whatsoever. They can't help or harm you. You know, but he'd be describing this thing to his wife, and he'd, you know, be talking about, oh, the baby has got a little problem in their tummy, and, you know, and his wife couldn't handle it. She bugged him out. Now he's married again with another gal and stuff. But it's funny. When it happens, you'll know when it happens, Carl.
Okay.
That voice you hear in your head will no longer be Philippa or Fox or something. It'll be you. Next question.
Next question. Okay. So, based on your Tree of Life 10 video, it looks like you confirmed what I was trying to get across in my comment, that each of those intelligence appears, right, and the pathway can be seen as a blockage, a mechanism between the two.
Correct. Correct. And Tippereth, the reason Tippereth is so important, the reason we spend so much time at Tippereth, it's actually the axis of the entire tree. It's actually
now, that was my next question. Is the access just through Keitha to Malkuth, or does it also spin in other directions?
Remember, we did the tree and counter-revolving tree. That's why I keep telling people they got to pay attention to that back part. No, it can spin anyway. But the two of them spin together. The revolving and counter-revolving tree share Tipperest. They do not share Tether and Malkuth. The counter-revolving tree is slightly larger than the revolving tree, and so the spheres pass each other, just not quite touching, but they actually come into juxtaposition as they pass. You see, but the only shared intelligence is Tipperest.
Okay, so it's a ball within a ball within a ball, and they can all spin independently of each other.
Correct. Correct.
Right. Okay, that was that question. Now, we acquired the Kabbalah.
That's a decent book.
It covers a lot of the basics. We got that yesterday in Wanganui, but it refers to a tree of light, which would appear to be the tree of life done in each of the 4 elements.
Okay, I can go with that. There's going to be certain parts in there that are going to disagree with me occasionally.
That was this bit on the right here. You can see the tree of life seems to move up several times.
Correct. Correct. But you got to get a hold of it in its base form before you can start moving it.
Yep. No. Figured that. I was just checking.
Yeah, that's a good book.
You can see we're enthusiastic.
Aggie wants to know who the author is. She hasn't seen that one before.
C.J.M. Hopkin.
Hopkin.
Okay.
Got you.
It's written in pleasant, easy to understand language for those who are totally new to it. So yeah, with lots of illustrations. It's good.
It's even got a picture of Crowley dressed as a Hierophant.
Oh boy.
I'll see if I can find that one.
Yeah, just what we need.
I've been reading up about him on the internet. He was clearly a maniac, just incredibly intelligent, but incredibly no self-control at the same time.
You'll remember seeing him like that?
Yes, I do. But he was totally into the entire Egyptian aspect. The man was not, the man never should have been trained. McGregor Mathis and a couple of others should have been excommunicated along with him for ever teaching him. As a child, he was known to like torture small animals, like small kittens and dogs.
It goes from a long way back.
Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, it went beyond childhood investigation. And then, out of his distorted ego and a desire to force his way to the high magician status, he took his secretary with him, who was Israel Regadeh at the time, and they went to Giza, the pyramid in Giza, the initiation pyramid, and it is totally recognized and always has been that one never tries to conjure an entity without a full circle, without the requisite other 11 people. That's the only way you can control that entity. And he did it by himself, and
That's a bit risky.
And became something else. I mean, he got possessed. And there's been an argument. There's been an argument for 70 years now as to whether he conjured either Baphomet or Beelzebub. But the notes that Regardie was taking indicate that it was one of them. Both extremely negative concepts. And yes, he was definitely very flighty. However, the lady that he had, he was in an affair with Frida Harris, who is a European almost royalty, and he described the deck that's now called a Toth deck, or Auto Templi Orientis. Well, but anyway, he described the cards, and she was an artist of repute. And he described the 22 major arcana to her and sat there sort of like a police artist with someone trying to describe it. And she made the 22 major arcana pretty goddamn close to what we've used as initiation cards for a long, long time, thousands of years. And then they just made the minor arcana sort of fit the major. And that's actually what he got kicked out for. But she became obsessima in Europe after he got kicked out. She is not a bad lady. Lady Frida Harris was not a bad lady. And she did nothing wrong. Go ahead, Harry.
Well, I just wanted to ask, I know I've seen the word and I've probably heard it, but I'm not clear about what an arcana is.
Arcana. You have major arcana and minor arcana in the Tarot. The major arcana are the 22 trump cards, the 22 major cards. They have direct representations to the 22 Masoretic or Hebraic calligraphs, the same with the Aramaic, the Greek, 22 letters, the Cyrillic, Russian, 22 letters, the major 22 calligraphs in ideograms in Chinese and Japanese. They are related and considered to be within our culture, not outside of our culture. They're considered to be the 22 concepts that allow reality. Okay, so that's the birth of Kabbalah. That's the birth of the occult philosophy, is using these 22 concepts. You see, so the concepts were deliberately distorted in the late 15th century once the printing press was invented, Gutenberg, for the simple reason that when we talk about magic or deal with magic or one of these concepts, we're looking at a situation where the concepts can be abused. You see,
can you give me an example of one concept?
One concept being abused would be the concept of Gimel Yad Dalet.
Okay, now I'm really confused.
Okay? That spells God. That spells God.
Okay, so God is a concept, one of the 22.
No, well, that was 3 concept cards put together to make God.
And what were the 3?
The 3, Gimel, the Empress would be the card, is representative of the birth canal. Representative of the birth canal.
It's also a Hebrew letter, isn't it? Gimel?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's a Greek letter, and it's a Russian letter, and it's a Chinese and Japanese ideogram, a Sanskrit ideogram, an Arabic ideogram, and then Yod, which you would use there for the O, is that finger, manifest, and Dallas, then you have the Emperor, which is the ruler, but actually a breastfeeder too.
He's a what and a breastfeeder?
He feeds. He breastfeeds reality. The mother of reality, and it's a male.
It's a male. Yeah, male
concept. You go female manifestation male, but the male is still breastfeeding reality. Okay, now if you spell that concept backwards, you know, it's dog.
I always wondered about that one. People do love their dogs, and their dogs do love them. There are no mistakes.
So,
That's what happens when you're dyslexic. That's what happens when you're dyslexic.
but you can take you can take like the concept, the easiest one to use to describe it's the most powerful card in the deck, just because it's the one that travels through the entire thing. You can take the concept of Shin, and here's a concept of this individual that is trying to achieve an understanding of all of everything, and yet at the same time its ego body won't let it jump off the cliff. So all the time it's walking along the edge of the cliff, it's picking up the sticks and stones, and finally it goes in the forest and throws the sticks and stones at the bears and the tigers and the crocodiles until it becomes more afraid of them and it allows them to chase him over the cliff. Wow, Shane, all of a sudden...
That's the story of my life. You just completely told the story of my life.
Well, it's not over the cliff yet. You're still running from the animals. You got to run towards the fucking cliff. You don't run deeper into the forest.
Well, maybe
you're
one of the bears that I'm running into.
You'll stay. I'm guiding you to the cliff. I am guiding you to the cliff. I'm guiding you to the cliff.
And I think you could scare me over the cliff. You know, you have to just become more frightening to me than the cliff.
What the fuck do you think I'm trying to do?
Well,
I'm trying to talk you into it.
Well, I'm sure I haven't seen the worst yet.
No, you haven't. But see, you distort that concept. This is where it gets touchy. Hermetics is very, very logical. If it goes, hey, fuck my ego, and jumps off the cliff before it's achieved all that other experience, you know, that's where the negative concept of suicide comes from. That's where,
yeah.
See, if you jump off the cliff before you're ready, you're just going to crash and burn.
Well, we're really talking about a
The objective is to jump off the cliff when you're in charge of gravity, where you can control your emotion. Hey.
Is that a leap of faith? Is the phrase that comes to me. You're not.
Yeah, if you want to be a Christian, that works.
I've always wanted to be.
all these concepts are incorporated into all theology.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They are. They're in cop. That's
I know.
That's the concept of how every great book on theosophy was ever written. It uses all 22 concepts.
I have a friend who I'm going to borrow Joseph Campbell's what's it called? Heroes A Hero's Journey. Joe Campbell. You must know about Campbell, right?
I love Joseph Campbell. He's come up twice in the last goddamn 3 days, actually. My favorite, I love his concept of conspicuous consumption.
Say more.
Well, if you know Joe Campbell, you're going to know conspicuous consumption. That's somebody that goes and buys a Jaguar just because they want everybody to know he's got a Jaguar, not because it's the most comfortable fucking car he can have or the most sensible. You know what I mean?
I haven't really read him yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I know I'm going to love him.
All American politicians are guilty of conspicuous consumption.
Oh, there's a lot of people are.
But what it does is it landlocks. It's selling your soul. It's Faustian. See, it's Faustian. Turn around, you know, when Goethe wrote Faust, that's basically what he was saying is, you know, if you're willing to be greedy and selfish and slothful and all these other things, you can be very happy here. You're just not going to get anywhere spiritually, and you're going to be in a rather unique place during your 84-day interval.
Isn't life, as most of us know it on this planet, my life anyway, I'll just speak from my experience, it's like the material world, and it's very seductive. You know, the world of appearances is very seductive.
That's why they keep inventing new things, to keep you seduced.
But at the same time, here's my conflict, is I know that I'm in a body, and the body has fun. It's here to, you know, sense things and taste things and eat and drink and have sex and be athletic and, you know, do whatever it is that brings enjoyment to it. And it's easy to get, I used to think pleasure was happiness. That was my main thing. I thought having as many sensual satisfactions as I could possibly, you know, rack up in my life was the way to be happy, and I was rarely happy. I mean, I was never happy. I was never in a state of happiness. And now I've come to make a distinction between those two words. And I want to be happy, and it seems like I have to let go of a lot of the sensual pleasures. I don't know.
It's not required. But, see, the situation comes when you deal with that outrageous concept of greed or sloth again. What happens when there are very, very, very wealthy adapts. There are quite a few adapts that there are most of them the middle class.
Yeah, the big money. Yeah.
But there are many very wealthy. But if there's no application of greed, there's nothing wrong with possession. It's when the application...
Where the line gets drawn is that it's like it's an addiction. There's never enough.
You can be living under a bridge as a homeless son of a bitch and still be greedy. You can turn around and find a bushel of apples and there's 5 other people in the camp, but you hide the apples because you're going to be the only one that eats them because you don't want to give any of the apples up because you might run out of apples tomorrow.
Right.
You see what I mean?
I grew up in my house like that. I have 4 siblings, and I was been around the cookies. I always made sure I knew exactly how many were in whatever package, and I always made sure I got just more than my share. Not my share, but just more than my share, just a little more.
That's not, but that's not, that was pre-puberty, right?
No, I was 30. I still do it with my kids. I do it with my kids. It's just a habit.
When I had 13 siblings.
What? Really?
And when you sat down to eat, you ate very, 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 very fucking quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
So you could get a little bit of seconds. If you took your time and enjoyed it, you didn't get any seconds.
You had was that all from the same mom or two different families?
All from the same mom and dad.
Holy cow! What are you, like an Irish Mexican? Those are the only two cultures I can think of that.
I'm a Romany gypsy.
Large family.
I'm a Romany gypsy. I made my mom and dad promise in previous their lifetime, but they were young and they were students of mine. And I made them promise to have 7 sons. I had a need to come back as the 7th son of a 7th son of a Romany gypsy. To make my path a little easier here as we're coming up on this. So, unfortunately, their procreation history went female, male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female, male.
Wow. And so, in the birth order, where are you? Where were you?
14th.
You're the last.
I'm the last.
Or the first, depending upon which way you're coming from.
Right.
Wow. Wow.
Let's see, you know, higher adapts do things a little different. You know, we still die. We still have accidents. You know, rubber suits wear out. You know, forget immortality. That's an etheric or spiritual concept. But
do you know when and how you're going to die? You, personally.
I do not.
Okay.
No one does, unless they've planned something.
Well, I asked that because you know who Carolyn Mace is?
Yeah.
Never.
Her story that she tells as she moved, you know, into the world, the whatever you call it, mystical world, shamanic world, it was an Inuit Eskimo that she was brought before, and they had a conversation. The thing that stuck out, you know, that I remembered was at some point the conversation came around, and the Inuit said something like, "Well, I know when I'm going to die, and I know how I'm going to die." And Carolyn said, how can you possibly know that? And the Inuit said, how can you possibly not know? And that was, you know, the end of that little piece of story.
In many cases, in many cases, and I'll use the historical reference that one of the people on the screen were there to witness. In fact, several people that sometimes come to the meetings came. I was planning on leaving, and we have a way we do it. But I was at Sissy Mayan, the gal that was coming in to take my place, got killed. And then it happened again. But I was sitting on a sailboat, and I had 10 to 12 people come down, and we were having a party because I was going to leave. And I didn't get to leave.
It's like the Indian character.
And then I said, okay, I'll stick around for the 2012 thing. So.
Remember the Indian character in Little Big Man? Who kept going up on the hill saying, it's a good day to die, and he would lay down, but he wouldn't die. And then he'd go back to the lodge.
But I frequently, when I'm reading for people, I frequently see where they're going to die. But that's usually accidental or some major disease, and it's an issue between them and their higher self because they're refusing to listen to their higher self and they're refusing to try. And so the higher self does the same thing you do. If your car stops working right, it goes and gets another car. I mean, if you're not going to head in the fucking direction it wants, you know, it's going to trade you in.
everything, you know,
Can I add something to that?
Questions? I feel like I'm kind of hogging. Hi, guys. By the way, I'm Harvey. Who are you?
All right, yeah, you can add something to that, Layla. Go ahead.
I was going to add to the death and dying thing as a point where I knew that I was under the threat of being killed, which was changeable due to that information. Is that appropriate to say?
You're okay. Go ahead.
When I was just commenting on if you do know when you're going to die and how you're going to die.
And who would want to know?
Mm-hmm.
Someone who can change it.
I'm not saying you would want to know. I'm saying that there was the situation that I found myself in. I knew that it was happening. It was headed towards me, or I was headed towards it if I didn't reroute myself.
I remember the day.
Yeah.
I remember the day. I said, go home and pack a suitcase. And I'll cancel everything I got
And I
here.
packed 3.
And I'll meet you at the bus station. You showed up at the fucking bus station with 3 fucking huge suitcases.
And you said, I am not fucking carrying any of that shit. You're going to carry your own shit. But I did make it to the bus station.
I can show you.
We've got a massive cold front coming in tonight.
Yeah, I heard that.
I've got this outrageous. No, it's they're talking a foot of snow. I've got this.
At your elevation?
No, 5,000 foot. But in other words, tomorrow, it's been 85 degrees all week. And tomorrow, all the mountains around us will be covered with snow.
Yeah, the winds are gonna.
Does that have to do with the 21st?
Oh no! I mean, the climate's been funny everywhere. No, it's just I was surprised. I was surprised yesterday they didn't have a big earthquake or something. The daily guard was so weird.
I don't know where I was reading where you were talking about, I guess around the 21st, where the equator is going to,
no, the sun passes
forgive
over
me,
the
I can't quote you exactly.
Take place on the 19th, or the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning of the 20th. It'll pass over. And that's when Carl and Philippa will, that's fall for them, and that's spring for us.
But is that a really good day to try and do a really sort of solid version of the altar where you put a lot of meditation in, and will that help us to reach higher self? Absolutely.
Absolutely. In fact, if you'd have to do the time it on your computer. No.
Just pause for a second.
Oh, okay.
Just go to your computer and see exactly what time it is going to be there where you are in New Zealand when it actually takes place. And plan on a real nice altar, like a full 20, 30-minute job. And start 15 minutes before. And try and hit Tipperettes, your green candle. Try and hit your green candle right at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah. That's a very nice exercise. And then take Carl and make him very happy.
And run outside and howl at the moon.
Whatever.
Pack the kids off, have some fun.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
See? you have to allow yourself that special sexual ritual that creates all that energy. It's the most powerful energy. You have to tell the kids, stay outside. I mean, you have to get her done.
It'll also be the four-month anniversary of my mum's passing, so that'll bring some extra emotional oomph into it too for me.
That's good. That means your mom's 4 months. It sort of means your mom's already back.
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday, and I thought, first of all, I'd find it distressing, but the more I thought about it over the day, it was actually a really nice feeling to think that she's back and taken form again, and someone's caring and loving her, rather than the thought of her just being somewhere removed.
It does not necessarily mean she has been born yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Fetal possession can take place at any time after conception. Frequently just before conception, but it can take place, you know, in one of the reasons they use that first trimester, second trimester thing. It's rather odd for it to take place in the first month and a half, 2 months. But it does happen. But it's rather odd. It frequently it just takes place a week before birth. It depends. It depends when it wants to. That is the soul's choice, not the fetus's choice. See, once you become an adapt, and even when you're not an adapt, once you're in transition, it's a really beautiful place, believe me. It is. All the stories you hear. It's not white light like they talk about, but it's really a beautiful place. But time-spatial relationships are very distorted there. But if an individual has enough spiritual consciousness while they're there, you can decide geography, parentage, things like this, and pick the one that's most appropriate to what you want to do to finish fulfilling your karma and finishing your spiritual path. Unfortunately, it's such a fascinating place, and that 84-day thing, you know, goes so rapidly that frequently people don't take the trouble to make that decision. But
How does that?
Go ahead.
How does that apply to induced birth? Induced birth.
Induced birth. Well, I don't think you'd want to induce it at 8 months.
Right. I guess I'm referring to my own personal remorse, is the fact that it was more convenient for the doctor, my parents, to induce birth versus, even though that wasn't necessarily what was in my best interest or what was happening to myself.
But you were still at term.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about those babies that they get born at 6 months and they manage to save them when they're pound.
As long as spiritual possession is taking place and the soul wishes survival, it's perfectly viable. You're getting into real heavy theosophy. The argument would go that a Licky in the pre-birth transitory state, in all probability, knew that when she chose it. You see? It's hard. It's hard to judge the. You
I
see,
know that I'm talking about my birth. I'm not talking about her birth. Her birth, I know I know that had to happen when it happened because of the way it happened.
right. But when you when you're in transition, you are an adept.
Okay.
Your soul is an adept. Your soul is already I adapt, a magician, a priest.
Right.
And it's just trying to get you to work with it and understand that because you're one too. That's what it wants. But when it gets up there, it's so glad to be back part of the whole that it doesn't always plan its next movie too carefully. You see? My lifetime before this one just was very short. But it was very, very painful. But that was on purpose so I didn't have to put up with a bunch of bullshit this time. So you can plan that. You can say, okay, I'll go down there and put up with the fucking bullshit. So I ain't got to do as much of it the next time. So you can stay on track. So you can, there's all kind of things that can happen. I mean, how many magicians do you think choose to be black?
17?
Yeah, I know. I hear.
You know, it's like, you know, Guatemalan or whatever. It's like, but they do. We run into some heavy discussion. It's like there's a finite amount of soul material.
I was just going to ask you about the guppy.
You know, there is a finite amount. The guff is empty. The guff's been empty for a long time. The guff is empty. So somebody goes into transition, and we've been very fortunate in the yellow spirit body. We've managed to avoid it, but the blue in particular, and all of a sudden there's 5 babies born, and there's only one spirit body there available, and suddenly you got all these little 2-foot blue spirit bodies walking around. That's the population explosion. They got a long way to go to come back to the whole. The yellows and greens have managed to hold stable, you know, still pretty much running full spirit bodies. The yellow spirit body has been, and the green, have been shrinking human population-wise for the last 5 decades, while the blues have been exploding. The yellow spirit body chooses to join an extant spirit body, and you know, so we have these, you know, a high adapt's going to have 400 or 500 mile spirit body. And telepathy only works when there's spirit body contact. So that's why we have incisimines that cover an entire continent to allow the adapts to communicate with each other. So we're nothing more than cell towers, so to speak. So you run into an individual like Terry, Layla, Aggie, or whatnot. They have hundreds of miles. But if somebody is further away than that, they cannot by themselves formulate the link. That seventh sense requires spirit body contacts. It's like when you're walking through the mall and you get that feeling part of word vision, and you feel someone looking at you, and you turn around and there's definitely somebody looking at you. It's because the spirit, your spirit body and their spirit body is touching, or you wouldn't have felt it. Okay, any more questions?
Can I just ask you, last
Yes,
night
yes.
I woke up twice, and it was, I had the distinct feeling that I needed to perform some sort of ritual for my mother, that there was something I hadn't completed doing. Is that probably just bringing her into doing this one on the 20th?
She's probably getting ready to be born.
Okay.
Sounds like to me.
So what do I need to do for her? Because it seems like I need to do something.
You need to just allow yourself to meditate, do a little altar about it, ask her what you should do, tell her that you're fine, tell her that you release her, tell her that you are happy for her.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Mm. Okay.
Have you read the blog
You say it's
talking
just
about
4 months.
Yeah. On the 20th, it's 4 months.
So she's either preparing to be born or soon, within a month or two, and she's just trying to get everything straightened out. So she needs to know that, you know, you are fine, and so she can begin her new reality.
Sounds good.
It's a positive. It's a very much positive. And you getting that intuitive feeling and actual wake up from it is a very positive. That says a lot for you. Oh, there's one for you.
Principles of Hermetic Philosophy, Beyond Fortune. It might be free online. A lot of her stuff is free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm writing it down.
And see this, he said he doesn't have any serious disagreements with anything she says. And he told me she was the first real female magician. I don't know, magician is the right word, but they're like real teacher.
First one public.
First public one. She's cool, I like her.
Who are you referring to?
Beyond Fortune.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is her last book. I really like her book on Kabbalah. That's the one I read 10 years ago. This is her last book, but it's not, I don't think it's overly complicated. It's not the most complicated. I was going to ask him.
Not part owned as Mooney then.
No, she's not part of Mooney. She died. There's something else.
Mooney does not exist.
All right, Mooney is the, I can tell him, right?
Yeah.
Mooney is the 7 of Sissimite in 1950. Five of them wrote it. And Cougina, they wrote all the Mooney Sadhu books, and I think this is the one Cougina got most involved with. There's something I want you to look at, Carl. Because you get into this shit, I know.
Is it the red and white book?
I've got the hardbound copy. The Tarot by Mooney Sadhu. Yeah, I didn't get the paperback. Yeah, he says that's the one. If you look at the lesson on Shin, just read lesson 97, where it talks about how Shin is the one you use to do magic. It's just cool. And I want to know if you guys have thought, now I'm in a different place. As you go, I know you've thought about it. As you go from Hod to Tifereth through the tower, why is it Hod? When you throw all the shit away, is it because Hod's the mental place where you got all the thoughts you need to get rid of?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't it Necha? Why isn't it emotions you're throwing away? Are you going to answer this?
Hod is the one of meditation. That's where you center. That's where you center.
Oh, that's where you're centered? So that's the place where you can throw it away from?
Correct.
Oh, did you hear that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those two guys, is that the active and passive who get thrown off the tower?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And when you go from Yesod to Tifereth, the devil is saying that you have to act out your desires to get balanced. Is that right?
The devil is the most Samech. It's I don't know why they call it the devil. You might call Samech it was Crowley's favorite card. It's one of my favorite. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. That's Samech. It's you got to act it out. You got to be self. See, part and parcel of the confluence is higher self made you, higher self wanted you. Higher self wanted you to be exactly what the fuck you are. You have to accept self. You know, and it's unfortunate that society has become so complex, and there is so much to be greedy about, slothful about, and things like this, that people lose contacts with their self because they want more and things like this, and so they violate self, so they move away from self. And so once we won't actually go from Yesod to Tifereth. See, we'll go from Tifereth to Yesod. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking that most of these have most of these paths have a positive and negative aspect.
Correct.
In Earth can be, you know, it can be strong and, you know, strong and powerful, but Earth can also be intransient and stubborn inappropriately. So I'm guessing with each of these, I've described that tower as a roadblock, but it can also be an opportunity. So there's a positive and negative aspect of each of them. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. Every one of them represents a concept from active all the way to passive and vice versa. Adam becomes Eve's higher self. Eve becomes Adam's higher self. This is their communion here. You see, we're getting into some very beautiful things.
Yeah.
We're getting into.
Yeah, so we understand what we're trying to achieve now. We've just got to go through the 22 paths, the 10 intelligences in 4 elements in every direction. Look at all of the triangles, and then we'll be there.
Correct. But then you have to bring it back down here.
Yeah.
Oh, I have another question.
And then we start.
No, and then you have to help others get there.
Yeah, exactly. Then the work starts.
You don't get to quit. You finally start your job. Then that's when you finally begin your job.
Can I ask you something a bit silly? I've had a number of people tell me that at night when I go to sleep, I start working and I round up all the souls of the lost kids and I send them over to the other side, and that's why I wake up feeling so knackered in the morning. Is there any truth to any of that? I wonder what goes on.
That's part and parcel of when I described what every adept does, trying to catch the souls as they go into transition or manage to break through. Yes, it's recovering, you know, or recoalescing or compacting lost souls. Yeah, sure, that's valid.
Yeah, because whenever I bump into psychics, they'll tell me that I've got little kids all around me, and they say, oh, you must have had abortions or something because you're followed by all these children, and I didn't have a clue what was going on.
You're just a sensitive, honey.
Yeah.
You're just a sensitive.
No,
take advantage of Carl.
Sexual advantage.
Well, I'm serious. I'm serious. When When we build elementals magically, and now that Harvey isn't on, it's done orally, through oral sex. And so you're using the concept of that male seed, impregnating the thought, creating the
And vice versa.
and vice versa.
So even though he's not a magician, he can help me to build my elemental that way.
Absolutely. And you him.
Oh, and talking of elemental,